This is one of the worst COD campaigns of all time. It was far and away in the top 3 for one of the worst COD campaigns. Probably one of the worst campaigns, period, I've ever played. It was honestly a disgrace in nearly every way. I'm all for remastered maps in Call of Duty. I always have and I always will be. But when it makes up the entire playlist or the vast majority of your playlist, that's when it's a problem.
We've put in these hours in these maps. We've put in days, months into these maps back then. And yeah, I would like to play them again, but I don't want the whole game to be built off of the same exact maps we played. I'll let you go first because I went first for MW2. What do you give this game out of 10?
I think you'll be surprised based off the that I've said. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 192 of the COD Casuals podcast. We're your host, Mike.
I'm Justin.
Justin, how we doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good.
Pretty
good. The weather is getting actually pretty chilly now.
Yeah, bro.
It's kind of fall, but not at the same time. Like, it's a little too cold for fall, you know? Like,
yeah, it's
we're
funny
waking up and it's 40s.
It's funny watching the episodes like in the past, and then we see them as like the outfits and the attire slowly shifts. Now I'm in the flannel, you're in the quarter zip. You know, it's just going to be that way. And then sweaters are going to be coming around, and then before you know, we'll be back to short sleeves.
Yeah.
You know, so, but dude, we don't got time to waste, bro.
Yeah.
The time is here, ladies and gentlemen. It is the official MW3 review from us, the COD Casuals. We have put in the mother time on this game. Yeah, seriously. I mean, dude, I've been waiting for this for a while. We're pretty much, I mean, we've put, I don't know how many hours into this game. We've pretty much completed this game in its entirety. And we got Black Ops 6 coming around the corner here just in a matter of days from the time you guys are hearing this. So you can get our final send off to this game. We're going to push it off a cliff and we're going to leave it there. So
with all the other CODs.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a whole. I know they did that back in like out west, often like was it North Dakota and South Dakota? They did cars and they just push them off the cliff whenever they started working or they stopped working. That's us with these CODs. We just get a new one and there's a whole pile of them out here. There's Vanguard, there's MW 2019, Cold War.
The hours of us just pushed off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we got a nice little itinerary basically of how we're going to go through all of this, but I'm going to say that we did put our hours in. You hit 1250. I'm about to be 1250. I mean, by the time you guys listen to this,
you're 1250.
I'm 3 levels away, I think, as the time that we're recording. But man, what a journey it's been.
So, it's been a journey of ups and downs.
It has, yeah. And we'll start off with the usual campaign, multiplayer, and also the added ranked zombies, whatever the third feature is, right? So if you guys have listened to our previous reviews, Cold War, Vanguard, MW2, you guys generally know how this goes. So we're going to start with the campaign first. So we made a dedicated video about this, but Mike, how are we going to review this campaign?
This is one of the worst COD campaigns of all time. It was far and away in the top 3 for one of the worst COD campaigns. Probably one of the worst campaigns, period, I've ever played. It was honestly a disgrace in nearly every way. So I won't get too specific with it, but I think the first thing that people were surprised by was the length. It was 14 missions, which sounds like a decent normal amount, but then they added this thing called open combat missions that we had in there, which were these really weird, like they had a linear objective, but then you could, it was very strange. It was like they were trying to implement DMZ or Warzone into a campaign mission. This was a horrible idea. And it made up a lot of them. I think what it was born out of was, a time crunch and laziness. But I would rather say it's more a time crunch kind of an issue because we talked about the whole, cycle of this game being pretty short from MW2. So they had a lot of those missions in there, and none of them were really good. And then the linear missions themselves were okay. So yeah, just overall length was already kind of an L. You could beat it in a day, no problem. Um, and then the story, bro.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that story. I mean, it was
So I mean, spoilers, but I mean, if you haven't played this game by now, like, you know, don't play the campaign. But
yeah,
so this campaign caused a lot of controversy when it first came out because if you played the original MW3 campaign or like even the original MW Modern Warfare like series campaign, it follows, you know, certain character development. And this MW3 2024 did not follow that as we expected. So I'm just gonna come out and say it. They fucking came out and just killed Soap for whatever reason, and that does not follow the timeline of the regular Modern Warfare series. And as two people that MW3, the OG one, is like top three COD, if not our favorite, that was a big blow for us.
big time.
Very big blow because I don't think anyone expected to have Soap just killed right in front of you. And also, they didn't even make a big deal about it either, which that's just a disgrace to the character.
Right. They just go to the cliff and he's got the ashes and they're just like, "Yep, see you later." And then or even before that, he's laying dead on the floor and then they're like, "Let's keep going." And then they go and stop whoever. I don't even know if they don't kill Makarov. He gets away.
Yeah, he gets away.
But they end up, like, having a firefight, killing a bunch of people, and then Price goes back to Soap and sees him dead. This was such a shock. I remember my jaw was on the floor when this happened, and not in a good way. I was like, "What?" Like, how does this make any sense? You know? It, it was very, very strange, to think that they killed all these people, and then they're having this moment, and then Makarov, out of nowhere, is just able to come up and start fighting them, and they don't even see him coming. It was really dumb. Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it's it's a real, I don't even it doesn't make sense compared to the actual storyline that's going on. Um, it's very, very strange.
Yeah,
I don't know what their move is with it. I thought like with MW and MW2, we were getting some sort of time like a similar timeline, but kind of prior to the events of what we'd had in MW2 and MW3, which made sense. Um, but yeah, killing him off makes, it makes no sense at all. I think that was something they were going for, like, a shock factor kinda thing,
they got it.
just, oh, yeah, they
Yeah.
got it. But it was horrible.
Mhm,
Yeah, that was, like, the cherry on top for this awful campaign.
mhm. Like, yeah, and I'm gonna say too, like, the the campaign itself, like, all the missions that you described, they were, the open world stuff, you and I, not a fan. I don't think many people were a fan of those, like, open world missions. The very linear missions that, everybody knows for Call of Duty, they weren't that bad, you know? I feel like there are a lot of gunfights, firefights, which that's your typical standard COD, I think there were like 2 or 3 very stealthy missions, and you and I are big fan of those, but overall, like, the campaign itself leading up to that moment was, like, alright. I'm not gonna say it
Right.
was great or anything or even, like, good, but it was like, okay, they tried something new. Didn't really hit, to be honest, but at least the linear missions were pretty good. And then I'll say even the last mission leading up to the firefight with Makarov and all of his like henchmen, that was a very like typical Call of Duty mission. You're tailing someone and you're waiting, listening, waiting for info, and then you walk into the tunnels, and then you're in like a firefight. But what really killed it, obviously, was when they killed off Soap and they showed like no remorse at all, just killing him off. This special character in the Modern Warfare series, like, and then you kind of just walk away.
And then after that, they do one of those, like, gotcha, post credits cutscenes with Shepard getting killed
Mhm.
by Price, which was another, like, "Okay, what are we doing right now?" Because now 2 people like, I mean, granted, Shepard did die, um, by Price. No, he died by, well, who was it? No, Soap killed him, right, in the original? He
So
throws the throwing knife, yeah.
yeah,
So now Price kills him, and it's like yeah, it was really strange because even at that point, like, he had gone really rogue, but in this game, he hadn't, it was like
yeah, he was developing into that, like
right, right, he
we
hadn't gone full villain.
yeah, and these were based on the timeline. This was supposed to take place before all like the OG Modern Warfare series.
Right,
So it just doesn't make sense and why it doesn't follow the timeline. And I guess it's just another alternate universe. But at least in the OG CODs, when they killed off characters, it obviously it is going to be a shock value no matter what. But they kind of like honor the character when they die.
right,
I guess like the major shock factor was when Ghost died in MW2,
right,
but they honored him afterwards. With this, like, yeah, you can say they honored Soap, but they spread his ashes, right? But like they don't even like show you going back to him after he gets killed and you defuse a bomb and everything. Like you just it cuts because I remember I was like, what the heck just happened? It cuts and it goes to you spreading his ashes. I'm like,
right.
wait, this is the end.
Yeah, it was insane. I think overall the tone of it was very flat, like throughout the entire campaign. And something I did note, there was a lack of music in this game. Like in the campaign, there was not a lot of music that was seemed like, or if there was in certain times, it was like the just super generic orchestral stuff that I'm like, bro, this is just like filler. It doesn't add anything to the atmosphere or like relate to what we're doing in the mission. Like, I think about music from, like, the Black Ops series, even thinking about just the music that we've heard from Black Ops 6, the original MW2, MW3. I mean, that music makes you feel something. It's so integral to the game. MW3, bro, it barely had any of that. Like, I remember that AC-130 mission, like, way later on, it's just silent.
Mhm.
It's like, "Bro, what?" Like,
Yeah.
you don't even realize it, but you're like, "Man, this is so boring," and there's nothing there to, like, make you realize, "Oh, this is a big deal," or you're like, you're in danger, or,
Mhm.
there's, like, high stakes involved. It doesn't do anything for that, so overall, I think, like, the lack of music definitely made this whole campaign feel flat, and the characters didn't have enough time to develop.
Yeah, and I mean, we know that COD campaigns, you normally can beat them within a day, right? Like if you play Call of Duty, you can beat these campaigns in a day. But normally these campaigns, like you're going into it, they're very linear and you're like trapped in the story. Like you're
Right.
actually in the story and you feel everything. With this, that whole open world, open combat took you out of that
Yeah.
immersion completely. So, look, like you said, they probably did it because of the lack of time, and, we'll say that, and I appreciate that they did try to do something new, but it flopped, like, bad.
Yeah.
So, I hope with Black Ops 6, which, again, I completely trust Treyarch, that they're gonna go back to, your regular Call of Duty campaign, linear, and I'm sure we're gonna get a great campaign. But, yeah, with this one, definitely the worst COD campaign that I have ever played.
Yeah. Yeah, I second that. It was really, really bad, and again, uh, I hope that Treyarch and Infinity Ward 2 and Sledgehammer and every other developer that's out there, they just kinda learn from this one. There's certain things you should do and certain things you should not do, and this campaign had a lot of things you shouldn't do. It was, yeah, definitely one I will never go back and play again, ever.
Yeah,
So,
kinda one that I wanna write off completely
yeah,
and
yeah.
not remember, like, "Okay, Soap died in a b way better way."
Right, exactly. I
Not like
wanna try
that.
to think of it another way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say, like, going forward, like, this campaign definitely hurt my score on this game. I tried not to factor it in as much since it's like we only played it the one time. Um, but moving on from that, going into the zombies, this is something I wanna preface about this for people maybe who are big zombies people. We did not play a ton of zombies in this game. We played, I don't know how many hours total, like, probably, like, 12 hours or something like that if I had to
Yeah.
guess, somewhere
Like
12 to 15.
yeah, I would say 15's a good guess.
Yeah, it was not, obviously, like, our main focus. We're obviously in multiplayer, but going into the zombies, what I did like about this, so overall, like, if people, for whatever reason didn't play it, the whole point of this one was that it was gonna be like an open world kind of a concept similar to DMZ, but, with zombies, which I thought was pretty cool because they can't do the round base because Treyarch owns that, and this was developed, I believe, by Treyarch, or they did help.
They
They had
helped
a
develop it.
yeah, yeah, they had a lot of help developing it. Um, so that's something to be noted because it wasn't that bad, and because it was made by Treyarch.
Mhm.
Um, but overall, I thought this concept that they were doing with this open world and the different zones that you had to go into, um, I thought it was a good take on it. Um, I don't think it's going to be something that it should be repeated. It should definitely be developed as time goes on because my only problem that I had with the zombies was the contracts that you had to constantly do in order to level up. Um, to me, after a while, that just gets really boring. Like it gets very repetitive trying to level up or trying to go and do like those nests. And then maybe you have an Easter egg that is it's exciting and it does kind of carry the story and just like what you want to do forward. Um, but that was my, like, from the time that I played it, that was my one gripe with it was the amount of contracts that you had to constantly be doing in order to get to that level 3 zone where there were bosses from what we know about it. Um, but yeah, overall, I'm like 60-40 on it. I like it, but it's kinda hard because I didn't play it enough.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm kinda with you. I think the new type of zombies, the way they attempted it, I'm glad they at least brought Treyarch into it to help develop it and work on it. Because I did have fun with it the time that we played, but in, again, my opinion, zombies should be obviously round based, but it should keep you engaged, like, at all times. Whereas I feel like in any open world, you're kinda just going on and just doing, like, checkpoints. Like you said, you're just doing this contract and this contract where you have to get these done so you can move to the next zone, and then go pack a punch and upgrade that, then go on to the next zone. And then that's when it becomes really fun because you get to fight all these insane bosses and stuff, right? But I think there is a way to make this open world, like, better than it actually was. Because again, I haven't heard any bad things about this. I haven't heard anyone say bad things about the whole concept. It's just that it's new and they kind of just stopped refreshing it and updating it. And I think that there is a place for it, but they need to make it more fast paced and engaging with it. I don't want to be going and, looking for loot all the time through the whole game. It's just not what Call of Duty is. I appreciate them trying to do that, and the fact that Treyarch even made that work to the point where we actually don't mind it, that's like a win for them, I think. At least take that as a win.
Yeah, and to that point about making it more, like, just having to go and loot stuff, thing I don't like in that is there was for me, the whole appeal of zombies is, like, the risk of dying all the time, especially when you get to those high levels, it's like, "Oh, we're in a tight map, you could go and take a wrong turn, and you're screwed." In this, it's like I'm driving around or I'm taking a boat somewhere. To me, there was just a lot of dead space. Granted, that's what you're gonna feel in like, like a big open world like that, pretty much in like a BR sense. But to me, that's not COD and that's not zombies. It just feels more of a chore. It's like, okay, I'm in this huge area and I see 4 or 5 zombies like down the way there. I can just hop in my truck and run them over. It doesn't it doesn't appeal to me. I much prefer a specific map that I can just kind of go around and explore, that has certain spots that, yeah, I could go and get into a lot of danger. And screw up my game that way,
Mhm.
Yeah, again, it's uh, I'm with you. I never heard anything really bad about it, like people saying it was terrible, but just from my personal taste on zombies, I think like I'm with everybody else. I mean, I just prefer round based. I think that's the superior tried and true way of experiencing zombies.
Mhm. Yeah, and I agree. The attempt was good. I'm glad that they at least tried, and I think if Treyarch wasn't part of it, it probably would have flopped very bad.
Yeah, it'd have been
So
horrible.
yeah, well, at least Treyarch tried, and I bet if for some reason they tried again, Treyarch will figure it out and hopefully not make it so open world. But yeah, overall, it didn't keep us that engaged because, I mean, we are multiplayer guys through and through, but we like to dabble in the zombies because I don't know, I guess it's quick. I guess not quick, but like we can jump in and the action's right there, you know, from round one of zombies. We have a mission to get done for the Easter egg, and the zombies come at you pretty quick.
Yeah,
Where in this open world, you can just hang around the outer circle the whole time and not really do anything.
and you gotta wait for an exfil and all that. Like, I compare this to Cold War. Cold War, we were always like, "Oh, dude, let's go play zombies." I know for a fact neither of us said that this
Mhm,
entire time we were playing this game, other than maybe very, very early on in the game where we're like, "Oh, we need to play it for the sake of the podcast." Like,
yeah.
I never afterwards had an itch to be like, "Oh, dude, I really wanna go and play zombies." Like, I don't wanna play multiplayer. Never happened.
Mhm,
So yeah, I leave it at that with the zombies. I thought it was okay, but it was, what's the word I'm looking for? It was not offensive,
mhm, yeah,
you know?
I agree, yeah, and, now we can move to I think the bulk of this episode, the multiplayer. This multiplayer, man, like, again, we put in hours. I think this multiplayer was one of the hardest for us to get through since starting this podcast, and we'll go into that later on why is. But overall, like, what do you think about this multiplayer? Like spawning in, leaving the past couple episodes we recorded like behind, like looking at it holistically, this multiplayer.
Fair.
Yeah.
I thought it was I thought it was good. It's not great. It's not horrible. And I think it was very much in the middle, um, just on the casual side of like what they offered. Um, I think it started off, if I have to, I think when we first started the game, it was about here. Like it was fair plus. It was going into the realm of really good. And then I think just as time went on, like most CODs, I think there is this steady decline that kind of goes on, especially with the amount of time we put in. However, I think this game suffered more than others because of reasons we'll get to later. Um, where it kinda went down to, like, fair minus, It got it got it got pretty tough, but that's kinda, part of it's on us,
Yeah.
um, with the leveling and everything, but even despite that, um, yeah, I think this game was strong at the start, but then just as time goes on, it took a turn for the worst a lot more than I think the recent CODs, that we've played have.
Hmm.
That's my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah. I think when the game first came out, you and I were both really excited to play. And, you know, because our MW2 review, we were like, there's so much potential with this game. So much potential, but they didn't take advantage of it. The things that we wanted, they didn't do. MW3 comes out, it's literally they took everything from MW2 and changed it to what we
Right.
wanted. And that was awesome. Like everybody was so excited about that. They went back to having red dots on the map, which should always be there. They made the game faster. The game's definitely smoother than MW2. You can slide cancel. You can what's the word? You can uh cancel reload, which was a big thing. Like the mechanics overall, I think this game was really good. But like you said, the beginning started off really strong for us. I think we were playing all the time, and then with every COD, it just slowly declines, right? Because we've been playing and playing so much on the same maps, which we'll get into more, and eventually it just becomes harder and harder to play. And like you said, a lot of it is on us because this COD definitely, just in terms of like life and stuff, things got very chaotic on my end. So I didn't do the typical, oh, let's play for a couple hours every night. Instead, I had to cram everything all in a span of a couple of weeks,
Right.
which I'm trying to take that out of uh, my critiquing the whole multiplayer because I do realize that,
Yeah.
but that doesn't um, change my opinion about like some of the stuff that we're going to get into. So
Y-
overall, like I think it, in my opinion, I think it was better than fair. I think it was like I think people will be surprised about how I rate this game overall. Um, but I think it was a good multiplayer. I'll say it was good.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think it definitely like compared to MW2 gameplay wise, this was such a better game when we've said that many times before. Um, and so they did improve in some ways. Now, I think a big thing, since we'll get into our list that we're going to be looking at here, um, right off the bat, the quality of the content in the seasons past, which I know is a big deal, obviously for them and for other people as well, was fantastic. In this entire game, every single season was unbelievable regarding, bundles that they had, even though we didn't buy them.
Yeah.
But just, the effort that they put forward to be able to actually bring content, whether it was that stuff or it was in-game stuff, it was blueprints, it was skins, or the big thing for us was the new maps that they added or
Mhm.
some variants that they added. Every season did a really, really good job at this. Um, I think that was one of the game's strong points is that they were able to continue to pump out content for us and just keep the game as fresh as they possibly could. Um, some things that they didn't change though, which doesn't surprise me, was the level capping per season. I think that they just decided to keep that for whatever reason, probably just because it was simple and it worked before and no one was really complaining about it too much. Um, that was okay. We've talked about it before. I'm over the season stuff. And then again, talking to some people on TikTok and Instagram, some people weren't really crazy about it ever, which I can resonate with that. Um, so that whole concept, it was okay. We had talked about it that hitting 1250, they don't really give you anything. It's it's pretty barren, the amount of rewards that you get for actually playing the game other than just moving through the battle pass. Um, so that was a bit of a letdown for me in those 2 points, but I would say the quality of the season stuff was really good. That was, like, definitely one of the strong points of this game.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, like if you go back and compare probably any season, season 2 or season 3 of MW3 versus MW2, the content is like night and day. Sledgehammer did a really good job of providing a lot of content to us and giving us, more. Uh, I mean, besides like the last season, but that's just, it's the last season. Like, still gonna dock them on it, but I understand it is, the last season. But if you look back at the MW2, their last season, we probably got nothing, legit nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Sledgehammer, I do appreciate that they kept up with all the content throughout the entire life of this game, and they are very active like during this game. I remember in the beginning they were fixing weapons. They're updating things like very, very quickly. They weren't sitting around and just dilly-dallying, waiting till, oh, the next season will put in these fixes now. You know, they were like, we're gonna get these fixes in as fast as we can, and we're gonna be transparent about it. And you could actually go and look at their board of, okay, these fixes are gonna be put in like on whatever day.
Yeah.
So,
No, they that is fair. They were really good with patches or updates to the game overall. Um, and something along those lines too that they were really good with, um, was with the weapon balancing and stuff too that was in the game. Same thing. There were a lot of guns throughout the time that they did have ups and downs, and they were always. I was even surprised in the last season. There was some point like within the past, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks or so, that they went and did like a whole bunch of um, buffs and nerfs to guns. They were always trying to balance the game and make it so that guns were not ridiculously overpowered. Now people are going to say, "Oh yeah, well the Rival 9 and the MCW were still like the best guns in the game." It's like, well, yeah, that's true. There was always going to be the
mhm,
meta guns, um, but it could just be recency bias. But I did feel that in this game there was a lot more variety from other players. Like a lot of other people were using different guns, whereas from what I remember in MW2, the amount of people that were using the Vaznev was just ridiculous. But when
mhm,
I go into games, even when we were stuck in the shipment playlist, I didn't see a ton of people using the Rival 24/7. It seemed like there was a lot of variety because the guns overall, they all had their ups and downs.
mhm,
Um, they had a lot of weapons and a lot of them were good. Um, which I think just, for overall, like, for us, we use more or less the same guns, but a lot of other people don't. And I
mhm,
think that's probably something that they enjoyed a lot about this game is just having the options to go use these guns and not get cooked using
mhm.
a marksman rifle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh,
Because
yeah.
it's like not the main gun to use.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate. Like, I always try out new weapons every single COD. Like, I'll go and get camos for a lot of them, and they definitely balance the weapons in this game a lot more than MW2. The the what is it? MCW and the Rival 9, they're the best guns in the game because they're the most consistent
Right.
guns in the game. But like if you give that to just some random person, that doesn't really play all that much, they might think those weapons completely suck because they don't have the right build or whatever, right?
Right.
But I think in this game, uh, like you said, there's so many different weapons that people were actually using. There and there are a lot of ARs and like subs that could have been viable for like at least, competitive. But you could get by using other subs and other ARs and not completely get fried.
Yeah.
And compared to MW2, that was not the case. Like you
Right.
would use um like any other sub outside of the Vaz or any other AR outside of the TAC and you're cooked.
Yeah. It's
Like
over.
yeah, you're just outclassed. And even the extra weapons they added throughout the season, they're really good, but they weren't like completely superior to the main weapons in the game. Where I remember in MW2, like the new weapons would come out and they're just significantly better.
And,
Like
and that's been
way
a
better.
trend. In
Yeah.
Cold War, you remember that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a trend in a lot of CODs, and I feel like in this one that, they kinda broke that, because the rival could still go and fry guns o any other sub that you were using, but then it just depended on who was using it,
Mhm.
you know? Um, so yeah, I agree with you. I think that was a really good point with this game. Um, though for me, it doesn't matter as much because of just how I play the game, but for someone like yourself, you said, it's important for you to be using all the guns and not get pissed off.
Yeah, yeah, cuz yeah, I mean like I've been in shipment for like a while now and the fact
Oh,
that I can
yeah.
switch to other weapons and feel fine and not completely get cooked is like it's fun instead of
Right.
just using the same like Rival 9 over and over, which I definitely did, but it's nice to change it up,
Yeah.
every now and then. And then especially too when like you run into people that use I don't know, whatever weapon and then you pull it out and then you're actually doing better than them with it. That's always nice. Like, the shotgun and riot shield people. I dare you to pull that out against me cuz fine. Like I'll pull it out and I'll just run through everyone with it, which is
Right.
what I've been doing the past like couple weeks and no remorse at all because you can do it too,
Right.
and they're just not as good at with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
But I like that I can do that and then go to like the car 98 and then I can go to the spaz. I can go to like some LMG, like it doesn't matter what it is, and I'll be decent with it.
Right.
Whereas like I'm not getting completely cooked because I'm at a severe disadvantage every time.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was very important, and again, this game overall, I think with the guns, they executed it well. Um, the variety was good. Every weapon class was strong. Um, I don't think we put too much on it, but the one thing in this game still that was an issue was the amount of attachments. Still far too many. Way too many red dots. Way too
Yeah.
many red dots. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
And I understand why they did this, but I don't like how they added MW2 weapons into this too, like as an option, where this game really was, in the beginning of the game, everyone said this is MW 2.5, which kind of was, right? Like they just took
it
the
was
game and sped it up, and they just changed all the features to make the game actually a lot better.
right.
And yeah, like I think that every new COD should have their own set of weapons. I understand why they tried introducing MW2 weapons into this because it came right before, and this has been the only COD where they've ever done that for multiplayer. So I understand, but again, beginning of the game, we're trying to figure out like what subs and what ARs are the best, and I'm getting cooked with a Vaznev and TAC 56. Go
Right.
play MW2. I
Right.
like don't
Right.
use those.
Yeah, and I'm glad this trend's gonna end with Black Ops 6. I'm assuming that they're just not gonna carry those. I haven't heard anything of it. Um, yeah, I thought that was so stupid. Um, especially when you're menuing, I mean, there's, like, just all these other guns. They did have that option where it's like, "Oh, you can filter MW2, MW3." I'm like, "Dude, you shouldn't have even put that in there."
Mhm.
Um, but I'm sure because it's a Warzone thing, if
Yeah.
I had to assume that's the only reason why they're doing it. But yeah, that's the only, tick I had against the weapons, and that's been a thing in just the past couple of CODs. There's far too many attachments on guns. It makes it very difficult to kinda think of what you wanna be doing build-wise.
Mhm.
It's like a double-edged sword. Some people probably love it because 'cause they've got a lot of options, but for me, it's like the idea of agency is a few options,
Mhm.
not 40, It's
Yeah,
like
yeah. I think the middle ground is you keep the gunsmith and you have the 5 attachments, but in each category, you have, like, 5.
right,
That
exactly.
that's a lot of attachments, there's plenty.
Right,
But yeah, weapons overall, I think they did a really good job balancing. Um, gunsmith, you and we always haven't been, like, a fan of the gunsmith anyways. I
right,
know that there are people that are fans of it, and they actually really like the customization. That's just not us, like, you and I we just wanna load in the game and play,
right,
competitively or just casually, and yeah, and then on top of that, we had, like, kill streaks, which we can talk about a little bit, but I do appreciate that they added more kill streaks into this game. I feel like they added
right,
new ones that were actually fun because, typically, you and I just start off with UAV, cruise missile, and then either the Harrier or like chopper. It's pretty standard. And in this game, they added even more. Like I don't use the care packages or juggernauts or stuff like that, but they added the swarming from MW2, not MW2, Black Ops 2, and that was awesome. I was like, oh, I'm doing this. Like this is awesome,
right.
and it brought me back to those days dropping swarms or the in Black Ops 3, the Ravs.
Yeah, was it the Raps or
Raps? Yeah,
Rabs?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those things. Dude, they just gave me PTSD with that. I forgot about those freaking
Yeah.
things. Those balls just
The
rolling
balls just
around
rolling
explode.
and exploding, yeah. I mean, the swarms are the same thing, except they're flying and diving
Yeah.
on you and exploding, but yeah. And they even added, like, an EMP, and they added the DNA bomb. Like,
Mhm.
again, Sledgehammer, they continued to update the game and add more stuff, like, more variety.
Yeah, that was always like a nice thing. Just uh, I like having the options for that stuff, even if I'm not going to use it. I do like to have it. Now that's different than the gunsmith where it's just way complicated and there's also like a potential of something that's much better. This it doesn't really matter, if you're gonna just fry, you're gonna fry, and I guess to an extent the gunsmith is kind of like that. If you're just good at the game, you'll be good with whatever you use. But with the kill streaks, I pretty much always ran the same kill streaks. I think I used Cruise Harrier and then, well, yeah, Cruise
Advanced.
VTOL and then the advanced.
Mm,
Um, and I kinda did that just because if we were playing together, I didn't wanna do, like, double swarms with you,
yeah.
you know? I was like, "You can just go and use that for the assault, and then I'll just be getting the advance," and then if you're frying, I'm like, "Oh, dude, you're, like, 12 off a nuke or something like that." I'm like, "Let me go throw this thing on," you
Mhm.
know? Um, but yeah, I like that they gave enough options for it, and like you said, they did have they had the DNA bomb, and then they changed it to something else too, where it was like,
They
you
changed it
know
to the DNA bomb.
yeah,
It
they
was
changed the
the
DNA Bob. It was I can't
the
remember what it was
MGB.
called. Yeah, MGB.
MGB, yeah.
Yeah. So they had which it was unfortunate that they got rid of that. I love that.
Yeah,
I like the DNA bomb instead,
yeah.
just because the game could keep on going,
Mhm.
which ended many a good games, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they had cool stuff like that, good variety, just some small additions to it. Um yeah, not really much else to say on it. Just that it was good to see some returning stuff, like you said, with the swarm coming back in, EMP, and then the variant on the for 25 kills. Um, I always like that stuff.
Yeah. I it it shows effort, in my opinion, whereas, like, I don't know, kill streaks to me are just, like, it's just a bonus to have, when you're frying, but
Right.
kill streaks have never excited me, like, so much. Because I feel like in recent years, they've been just pretty boring, like, you get
Right.
them, cool, but, in this game, I felt more excited getting the advanced and then getting, like, the swarm. Like, getting the swarm was awesome, and
Yeah.
then you just hear the buzzing all around the map and just then your feed's just going crazy, like, you're getting a bunch of kills. So,
Yeah, it's good to have a good reward system like that, but I mean, granted, thinking about some of the other CODs that we had back in the day, like Modern Warfare, World at War. I mean, dude, they didn't even have it was just
yeah.
UAV, artillery or cruise or what not even a cruise missile. No, it's just artillery strikes
Mhm,
or airstrikes and then a helicopter. And those games are revered, just because the game's good.
mhm,
Kill streaks are just a nice supplement.
mhm,
Um, so I agree with you. It does show effort. It does add a little bit of variety and I guess change your play style depending on what you're trying to do.
mhm.
So yeah, I can't complain on the kill streaks.
Yeah. What we can't complain about, though, is our next thing
Good
of
segue,
multiplayer,
bro. Yeah,
which
it's
is
bullshit.
you and I said it from the beginning, and a lot of people said it too, but then they got criticized about it, but the maps in this game. So when this game was announced, we were getting MW2 maps at launch. Those were gonna be the remastered maps. That's what we're getting in the beginning of the game.
Mhm.
Everyone was super excited about it. You and I were excited as well,
Yep.
but we are also on the side of we need new maps. And I don't think you and I realized the extent of that, how much that would impact us towards the end of the game, but it did heavily. And starting off in the game, I remember we loaded into high rise. We're like, whoa, this is cool. We're going back to our old days playing on high rise and terminal and skid row, all these maps. But then like a month goes by, 2 months go by, and we're still playing the same maps, right? And then people all over Twitter, people all over like social media in general are like, all right, we've played these maps, kind of getting boring. Boring is like an understatement at this point with these maps.
Yeah.
So, maps, huge downfall of this game, and will definitely play a role into how we rate this.
Yeah, you know, we can't act like we were people who, saw this coming. Um, I texted you about it. I think we talked about it maybe yesterday, um, or whenever it was. We were talking about it, and when I was editing these notes for this, I copied over our MW2 stuff, And then I saw a note that we had put in there saying from last year's game how we wanted more remastered maps, and I was like, "Oh, how we wanted that,"
We
and
did
then
get
we
them.
got
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah,
we
we didn't
got
get
it.
it we didn't get it the way we wanted.
Right, and
Yeah.
that's the big thing, I there's a bit of confusion with stuff like that because I'm all for remastered maps in Call of Duty. I always have and I always will be. But when it makes up the the entire playlist or the vast majority of your playlist, that's when it's a problem, especially for people like us who have never played these maps. Now, if someone's maybe
Who
12
who
years
who have
old,
played these maps.
or sorry, who have played these maps,
Yeah.
thank you. But if you're 12, 13 years old and you've never played these maps, then it doesn't really matter to you and you wouldn't understand this. But for us, this really sucked. It wore on us a lot as the game went on, way more than I realized or
Mhm.
thought it ever would. Um, and I don't really know why. They're all good maps, but I think it was because the way the game plays on those maps.
Yeah.
That was
I
kind of part of it,
Mhm.
but I think it's also too that it's just another year of these. Like, that novelty of playing these old maps is just that. It's a novelty. You enjoy it for a little bit, and then you're like, "Okay." And then after a while, you don't have any other options until, like, the
Mhm.
first season comes out, and they add a couple of new maps, and it's like, "Oh my god, it's a breath of fresh air," you know?
Mhm.
But
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. Like, these maps were not built for this type of movement, this type of game, you know? And for the people that played these maps back in the day, you and I have always said that we've put in these hours in these maps. We've put in days, months into these maps back then. And yeah, I would like to play them again, but I don't want the whole game to be built off of the same exact maps we played, right? Like, um, back in Cold War, we only had 8 maps at launch. We were complaining about having very little maps, but I didn't get as burnt out playing the same, honestly, like 5 maps in Cold War than I did with this game. And I think that's just because a combination of we've played these maps so much, and on top of that, they don't play the same either. And the formula that you and I have been like preaching that we want, they did it completely backwards. Where every new COD should have it's a new COD. You should have brand new maps completely, and then you sprinkle in the remastered maps during the season. Whereas Sledgehammer took a different approach because everybody was saying, "Oh, we want remastered maps." So here, take remastered maps from like your favorite Call of Duty ever created for the most part. We'll give it to you right at launch, and then we'll sprinkle in the brand new maps, which that is completely backwards. Shouldn't do
right.
that.
Yeah, if it was reversed, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and what really sucked about it is because the maps that they put out in the seasons, all like season 1 through 6, the new maps were really good. Like, I loved them. I can't remember, because it's been a while now, but I can't remember any of those maps being like, "Wow, this map sucks," you know?
Mhm.
Like, it's just awful. I thought all of them were actually pretty solid, like, for the ones that they had added in. Um, and it just goes to show, it's like, man, these guys who are like, whoever this team is that's making these maps, they're solid map designers, like, they're all really good, you know? Um and it's just a shame to think that's like, man, we could have had maps like this and more, and then we could have gone through the seasons high rise, favela, invasion, scrapyard, and that would have been fun. But the
Mhm.
other way around, yeah, again, scrap that idea.
Yeah, and we uh we played so many hours like on these damn maps, dude. And eventually it got to the point where we would load in, right? And we wouldn't even get some of them. Like we would only get high rise and like favela and I don't Skid Row. Like I haven't seen Terminal in a long time.
I can't
A
remember the
very
last time I
long
played.
time. And
Months.
Sledgehammer, like you said, they put out these new maps every season and they came out and announced, "Oh, we're going to go towards like the 3-lane map system, back in the day." And they're great, you know.
Right.
And let me say great and, like, explain myself before, like, someone fucking clips it, whatever. They're great within this game. They're no these maps aren't, like, something to glorize, and, glamorize and, "Oh, these are the best things in the world," but they were good for this game because they were made for this game.
Right.
And now you're but they took a bunch of old Call of Duty maps that we all love, and in my eyes, like, completely tarnished them. Now I think
Yeah.
people are gonna look at MW2 maps and think, "These are dog shit." These are really
Right.
bad maps, where you're just thinking of those maps on this game. When back in 2009, these are fantastic maps. They work well, you know?
Right. Yeah, and compared to the other games, like compared to MW2 and Vanguard, like regarding the variety of these maps, I mean, they do stand the test of time. Like they are good maps. Um, but like you said, it's kind of comparing apples to oranges because you know these maps are good, but they're just boring. For us.
Mhm.
Um, I wonder if there are people out there who feel differently about it.
Oh, I'm sure there
Um,
are.
yeah, for
Yeah.
people who just like you said, had never played those maps before, and I'd be curious to see how they feel regarding the variety, um, and just like overall burnout on those maps. Because for us, and for I know a lot of people who are in our age bracket who played the original one, it was pretty quick. Um, and alongside this, it was a pain in the ass that we didn't get any MW3 remasters.
Mhm.
Talk about sprinkling in remasters. It would have been great to get some of those in there. We didn't get shit.
Yeah.
And that sucked. I was hoping for that. And now that's going to be like, whatever the next COD is that they make, if it's like Advanced Warfare 2 or something, rumored,
They're
whatever it is,
they're gonna
we may
add
get it.
those. We're probably gonna
Yeah,
get
right?
the remastered,
Yeah.
and they're probably gonna be sprinkled in, which they should be, but, the I think there's just proves that nostalgia can only take you so far, and
Absolutely.
you and I have preached that, though, like, the past couple of years. Like, we know that
Mhm.
because when we pay the $70 for a new game, we expect a new game. Whether that game sucks or not, it doesn't matter, it's brand new, Like,
Right.
that's for us to decide. Um, like, Vanguard sucked, in our opinions.
Yeah.
Uh, there are definitely times where we've mentioned that, like, it's fun when you're just frying in Vanguard, and I'll go back and look at old clips from Vanguard, I'm like, "Okay, wow, like, this actually kinda looks fun," when you're frying, but we got a brand new set of maps. That was a
Right.
new game. Um, MW2 to MW3, not really a new game, they just fixed it to where MW2 is what MW3 is.
Right.
MW3 was the refined MW2, but then they
Right.
added the remastered maps that we all wanted, but we didn't want it this way.
And the last thing I'll say on this, think about, if you're ever confused on it, people listening, you can think about it like this, because that's exactly what the original MW3 was. Everybody called the original MW3 just a refinement of MW2, which it was, but it had all new content, had new maps, new weapons, etc. And I think that is one of the best Call of Duties ever. I don't give a fuck what people say. I think it's better than MW2 personally. I
Mhm,
don't give a shit what you say. I think it is, right? Think about what this game could have been.
mhm,
Because in every way, like we've said in other episodes, this game overall is better than MW2. But the fact that it's got those maps in there that just fell so flat for us over time, it like kills the experience, you know?
mhm. Yeah,
Again,
exactly.
this game is a total case of what could have been.
Which is what last game was too, what could have been,
Mhm.
and then Sledgehammer fixed it, but then they threw in all the remastered maps that, they maybe, that was them just saying, "Alright, you've been asking for it, here are all the remastered maps,"
Right,
or it was a matter of, "We didn't have enough time to develop maps."
right.
We will never know, but
We will never know.
I think we all know that nostalgia at this point can only take you so far, and
Yeah,
when you're buying a new game, you expect a brand new game,
right.
so we can't, like, pass that, so,
Mm-mm.
obviously, that's gonna go into our rating of this game, but this game, again, just had so much potential.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. So we ranted about that for about 20 minutes, so we'll talk 30
Mhm.
seconds on perks. Perk system, okay.
Mhm. Yeah, it was, they did refine it from
Yeah, they did.
MW2. It was the OG perk system. Better.
Right. Yeah, they made some changes. They got some new additions and then some subtractions from it, from last year's COD, and it worked fine. I
Yeah.
didn't really have but, I say it all the time, man, in games. I'm probably alone on this, but perks to me, uh, it's not that big of a deal. I felt that in our MW2 time we were playing it. I didn't like that perk system, like when they were explaining it.
Mhm.
But as the game goes on and you just play, you get used to it and you don't really even think about it that much. I wasn't playing MW3 ever once being like, "Oh, dude, I wish I had this perk. Like, man, this sucks," whatever.
Mhm.
Um, it was pretty much just again a refinement from what they had from last year. And that's what we're like, what you're seeing in Black Ops 6, like, but they are adding new stuff in there. So it's kind of like they're trying to put a new twist on the whole system.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which again, we'll see how that works out when they do that. But from MW2 to 3 in this, it really wasn't all that different.
Yeah, and, you know, the perks overall, like, they're pretty standard, right? Like, I
Right.
think I think the best system regardless for perks is the pick 10 system, and
Right.
but that applies to everything, your classes, lethals, tacticals, and your perks. Because, when you're playing, like, any game, that's when, I know you're not big into this, but I use, like, every class because I want
Right.
options for, every scenario.
Right.
But when you do a pick 10 system like that and you're playing a game, there are gonna be moments where like, "Oh, I do wish I had this perk," because you're forced into, you know, picking a certain play style. Whereas in this is like, you don't really change your perks all that much. I had separate classes for a bunch of different scenarios, but it was the same class and I would just tweak a couple of perks and that was really it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a set of perks for my subclasses, and then I had a set of perks for my AR classes. And if I remember, off the top of my head, it was like 1 or 2 perks changed, you
Mhm,
know, and that was it. But I really I experimented early on in the perks, but I just kinda found what I liked, and I've always been like that.
mhm,
I always find, like, the handful of perks that I always will use, and then I just kinda stick to that, you know? Like, I think back to, like, the original MW2, like, man, it was pretty much always, what, Scavenger, Stopping Power, and Dead Silence.
mhm,
Like, or it would be, Sleight of Hand,
mhm.
Stopping Power, Dead Silence, It's like, what about Bling? No. What
Yeah.
about Marathon? No. Lightweight? No. Danger Close? No. I use any of that, you
Mhm,
know? Good There are good perks, like, just like in this game, they're all good, they're all viable for certain people, but just for myself, I play that way. I find the perks that work for
mhm.
my setup, and I pretty much stick with those through the entirety of the game, but it is good to have those options.
Yeah, because 'cause I'm the opposite where I do try out a lot of perks, but I try out all of them, but I find, like, a larger subset of perks, like,
Right.
bigger than you, and
Mhm.
then I interchange all of those in, like, multiple different classes,
Right.
where I like that option because I'll spawn into, like, a search and destroy or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, I wanna use this class with this kind of set of perks. And then if I die or whatever, I can switch to another class with a new set of perks that are slightly changed with, a slightly different class, something like that, you know?
Right.
Um, so overall, I think they did whatever. They did a decent job with the perk system. I'm glad they got rid of the whole MW2 system. Not that like it impacted us all that much throughout the game, but I don't think they should make it any more complicated than, it should be.
No. No, I think, what they're realizing with a lot of these CODs that there is a big difference between Warzone and casual Call of Duty regarding what the players are looking for. They took a lot of this stuff from when Warzone, just went and totally revamped Call of Duty, and they're like, "Oh, well, all the multiplayer casual people want this too." And it's like, "No, they
Mhm.
don't want this." So I think now they've been, as the years have gone on, are starting to trim stuff off and be like, okay, we can keep this, we can keep this, let's add this. Oh shit, they don't want that. Let's just dial it
Yeah.
back again. So that's what we're getting with the next COD. It seems to be like when we played it in the beta, it was like, a return back to Cold War, or even prior to that, it was like way more simplified.
Mhm.
And this COD did that. This was a step in the right direction in that aspect. Um,
Yeah,
but
especially
yeah,
with adding the red dots.
yeah, I know exactly
That
right.
was a big standing point from MW2, where you and I adjusted. I think anybody that kept playing that game eventually just adjusted, right?
Right.
Uh, but the majority of people, like, they're not gonna do that. Like, they need red
Right.
dots should be in Call of Duty. I don't care, what people say. And the people that played MW2 with no red dots, those are the people that, like, you wanna get good at the game, so it doesn't matter if they're red dots or not, you know? Like, I think their Infinity Ward's reasoning was, "Oh, it creates, a smaller, what's the word? Smaller,
Skill
like
gap.
yeah, smaller skill gap because players that don't play all the time can, like, sneak up on, players that do play a lot." Where, like, I don't think
Skill.
that doesn't apply at all because the good players, the people that really play the game are gonna take the time to learn it. It doesn't matter. So now you have players like us who wanna get better at the game. We're learning the spawns, so we don't even need to look at the mini map, like, all that much and look for red dots, and
Yeah.
now we're playing against people that don't even look at the mini map, and there are no red dots, so it
Right.
doesn't even
Right.
matter. Where the red dots creates the most even playing field, like, as possible.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And uh I think the last thing I'll say on multiplayer, which I think was a big talking point last year for us, and thankfully it's not that big of a talking point this year because they fixed it, um, more or less, was the spawns. Spawns in this game were far improved from last year. Last year's spawns were horrendous. Uh, you know, made us question our IQ in the game.
Mhm.
Didn't understand stuff. Um, this game was way more predictable. It was way more of like a return to normal spawns. Now, for sure, they were not perfect.
Yeah, I
There
was
were
gonna cut
still,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely
yeah, okay,
preface that, yeah, because
yeah, okay, yeah, like because there's people like, what are you talking about? It's great, like they were bad
yeah,
at times. There were for sure some spawns that it's like, what, like it makes no sense, especially in small map. Like, don't even get me started. I mean, complete joke.
and just,
Um,
like, we'll get into it, but, like, ranked, and, like,
yeah,
watching CDL, there are plenty of times the spawns just, like, what? Doesn't make any sense.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like on the ranked maps, unfortunately, they were that way, and I don't know what that was. If that was just 4v4 related, or it's just those particular maps that they did, even though I'm sure they tested those maps trying to be like these are the best for competitive because of the spawns and just overall how the game and mode plays on them.
Mhm.
But I will say, I don't know if you agree, but I think it was way better than last year's.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think,
I think it was better than last year's too.
yeah,
I don't know if it's way better, but it's definitely better compared to MW2 because
hard to get much worse than that.
yeah, exactly. Because in
Right.
this game, like you said, you could at least predict them. Like you had a better chance of predicting the spawns and getting split spawns. You could actually
Hmm.
understand it, but
Right.
we can't like disregard the fact that there have been plenty of times on like invasion control where the spawns made no sense at all. Like
Yeah.
enemies would spawn completely behind you, because especially in ranked, all four of you push up too close together and you kill someone, and now they spawn right behind you for whatever reason. Like that shouldn't happen, but
Well. So let's close that on multiplayer anyway. And if you want, we can just jump into ranked on that as like one of the first things you want to talk about is some of the spawns at times. Because I do agree. There were a lot like that example on invasion control was pretty bad, and I think part of it is the maps too. Like when they would play high rise, like you play high rise control, it's like it was just a automatic win for defense pretty
Mhm.
much all the time, you know? If you were on offense, it was very, very hard to win because if you pl I mean, it was I don't even wanna say just like offense and defense, but it was really like if there's a team that is able to outslay, you were just going to push them so far back into spawn because of how those maps work
Mhm.
that you're screwed. You'll
Mhm.
never get out. Like on High Rise, it was like that. You know, the spawns were, I guess, good in that that's where they're supposed to spawn,
Mhm.
but they kind of should have been not as good. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
should have
yeah,
had like
yeah.
situations, like bailout situations to have you kind of go to another spot. Where
Mhm.
something like an invasion where you set up a spawn trap or you set something up where you're covering all of them, and then you don't even get like some bailout spawn. You get some completely random thing that doesn't even make sense. Like you said, you'd have one person kind of pushed up and then two people would just spawn behind you.
Mhm.
Um, and it could
And
throw off a game.
it costed games for, like, a lot of
Yeah.
CDL matches
Yeah.
because of that. And yeah, like, I think ranked overall, like, the spawns, they can always get better. Like, every year, they need to be refined regardless, but,
Yeah.
um and obviously throughout the game, I think every game, the defense, at least for Control, that game mode, it's always heavily favored in the beginning of the game. And
Right.
as the game goes on, I feel like it starts evening it out a bit because, towards the end of this game, like in CDL, there are a lot of pro teams that, for whatever reason, like they're just winning every single offense because I mean, they spend hours on this game, right? They know how to read the defense, and people just start choking like heavy. Like
Mhm.
every year, it's always, oh, it's defense heavy. And then by the end of the year, it's, oh, these people can't defend anything. Like
Right.
everyone's just capping everything so quick.
Yeah, that was definitely a case. I mean, when you're watching it and then just us as well playing it, um, there were a lot of situations like that. Um, and to your point, I mean, the spawns in games, I don't know if there's ever been a Call of Duty where the spawns have been perfect. And especially in rank the past couple of years, it has been pretty poor. Um, you know, I remember being in those games where we would get costed because of it. Um, and then, you know, some of our favorite teams we'd be watching and there'd be some insane shit that
Mhm,
would go down too. So it does happen. Now, you know, they could go and patch that stuff. That is something that I don't understand why they couldn't go and fix that, but maybe that's just me being naive and I don't understand that that is a lot harder to do than just say.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, that was a bit of a downfall with ranked. And the maps too, again, it was just the fact that we're playing those maps from multiplayer,
mhm,
sucked. Ranked did get a lot better when they started to add in some of the, season maps that we had that we were talking about, like the fresh maps.
mhm.
Playing on those was really fun. That was a breath of fresh air for sure.
Yeah, and they're, designed as 3-lane maps, so that helped a lot to transition them into the, competitive maps. And for the, like, spots in general, like, you and I are always people that, like, there's only so much you can do, right? Like you said, it's we're just gonna play the game,
Right,
and shit happens. Like, it sucks and it's not fair, but we can keep complaining about it, or we can just go out and, play the game and just learn the spawns as much as we can, right?
right,
Um, I completely understand if you're like an amateur, or you're, trying to become a pro, and you finally have, like, you think you have a decent grasp of these spawns, and then everything, like, you've studied, these hours you've put in, and then some whack ass spawn happens. You're like, well, that just throws everything off completely. Like, everything that
right,
I studied might be completely wrong.
right,
Or then,
right,
right before a big major tournament, they just decide to update spawns,
right. And
and
then
it's
you're
like,
screwed.
yeah,
It's like, okay, now we're playing a totally different game here, you know?
yeah,
Yeah. Now that yeah, I mean that's just obviously a massive drawback, you know, if you're
mhm,
gonna be having stuff like that happen. Um, Thankfully for us, I don't think we experienced anything that crazy. Granted, because just how much we played ranked, you know,
mhm,
which we did play ranked. a good amount in this game. I think the last few seasons, like season
We didn't. Yeah,
5 and 6.
yeah, we stopped playing 5 and 6.
Yeah, I think those
Yeah.
are where we ended. Um, but overall in ranked, you know, like okay, I like the rank system that they've had. It's easy to understand, all the levels that you've got and the SR cap in order to get into there and then move to the next one. Um, and it's got what was it? Yeah, 3 levels for every tier that you're in. I guess you want to call it that. Um, nothing really, to write home about or to complain about, I would say. It was pretty much exactly like it was in MW2.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, to a T, I think, unfortunately. I think some of the complaints that I saw later on were that they wanted to have, new icons and maybe like, some revamp to the system.
Mhm.
Um, which, new icon stuff that, that'll help. But I don't know about you. For me, I like that system and it makes sense and it's not broken. So I don't really think it's something that they should be, in a big rush to change.
Mhm.
Um, the gaining and losing of SR is pretty straightforward. You're always going to have your frustrations with people who, leave the game. Um, but like I think in this game they did a pretty good job with that. If someone leaves on your team at some point in the game, you don't lose SR. So they had some, protections put in like that that made it a little bit easier on you and me because I know we had people on our team back out or whatever, and
Mhm.
you would be bullshit about it. Um, but yeah, I thought the rank system itself I thought it was really good this year. I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it was the same as MW2, it
Right.
works. The only thing that I said from MW2 ranked to this is that I just wish there was more transparency to how much SR you gain, like what made you gain, a certain number of SR and what made
Yeah.
you lose. But that's a whole like different algorithm and like formula they would have to put out there. So I understand why they wouldn't put that out, or if it's even possible to put that out, it's just a lot of work on their end. But I do think that ranked, they need to, I think the system is fine, but I think they need to revamp, the skins and like the emblems and things like that. Like
Absolutely.
I want really, really cool emblems and skins for, whatever ranked you're put in,
Right.
or
Yeah,
division, whatever it is.
yeah, and rewards too. Like I want. I don't know. Every time when I get that emblem that it just says like ranked season 4, diamond. I'm like, really?
Hmm.
Like that's all we could do? Like come on, give me something a little bit cooler. Same thing with camos and stuff like that. It was weird because we were just talking. Oh, I say just talking. We were talking like 45 minutes ago about how the rewards in the seasons were so good. And then when it came to ranked, they were like, eh,
Hmm.
they weren't really all that, there wasn't really anything to be grinding for, you know. Um, I and that's what I want in a ranked system. I want a reason to be playing ranked.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's why they have this fall off in the seasons as time goes on. Of course, it's just part of the cycle. But part of it too is like, what are you really playing for? Like when
Hmm.
you get into these later seasons, 5 and 6, what are what are you doing other than just playing up against people who either, they just want to keep grinding because they have fun with it, or you're playing up against people who are hackers who are
Hmm.
trying to make their way up into the top 250, to like go and post it on Twitter.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Fools.
exactly. Like yeah, I mean, they need better rewards. They need to incentivize ranked, and that's why a lot of people just fall off, throughout the year in ranked. And that's a scare that a lot of people have with Black Ops 6. Ranked is coming out really early, and people are like, "Oh, right," you know, gets boring after like a month or two, right? And then hackers start getting in, and that's when it becomes awful. But I mean, it's just funny. Like the COD community, it's like, okay, well, do you want ranked early or do you want ranked later? Because when we got it later, people are like, oh, now we get it, and we're already like months into the game. I'm on the fence. Release it as early as possible. It doesn't hurt. It's just up to the developer if they want to dig their own grave or not and choose not to update anything in it,
Right,
where they should incentivize like stuff. I At least this year they did have, they had camos, like weapon
right.
camos for each season. And they had that in MW2 too, but like we need more than just that. We need like a
Yeah.
very, very custom skin or very custom like blueprint and emblem or something like that to where like you're just never gonna get that again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that that whole idea of rewards is something that is like that's a big thing that they should be doing going forward in any of these because again, they just need to give some, some incentive to keep playing. And then the other thing too, just for player protection, is they need to have the good anti cheat. This ricochet anti cheat that they had. I can't remember if this has been throughout the entire life cycle of MW3. I think it came I don't know. Do you know? Was it from
It was fr
launch?
it was from, MW2. I remember them, like,
Yeah.
announcing it.
Yeah, but and I think I don't know if they made any, like, advancements with it or anything. I mean, they must have because I felt in this game, I was seeing a lot more people talking about them banning people,
Mhm,
for hacking, and, like, I know you've seen them too, those people playing, and then they immediately just get dashboarded,
mhm,
out of the game because people report them enough. So, in this game, the hackers, I think we maybe came across them a handful of times. We didn't get up into the, Crim 2, Crim 3 iridescent realm. Um, but I know there, and especially in the top 250, there were a lot of people who were complaining about hackers, which
mhm,
is a huge problem. So going forward, if they're going to be having a robust rank system, they need to make sure that they can have it where these cheaters are taken care of because otherwise
mhm.
they're just going to ruin the experience. And I know a lot of people are like that in the top 250. They were like, screw it. Why bother playing? Because these guys are just using aimbot
Yeah.
and you're never going to beat them.
Yeah, and, like, I it's a harsh reality, but there's always gonna be, like, the cheaters. There will always be people hacking up in that iridescent, high crim, and, like, top 250 realm for whatever reason because 'cause they're losers that wanna
Right.
hack and ruin the game. Um, and that's gonna be with every ranked system, every COD, I'm gonna say, and they need to fix that. But at least for us, I think we felt, the ricochet system, I guess, compared to MW2, because I feel like in MW2, we definitely ran into way more hackers into
Agreed.
that. Granted, I we did play more ranked and we were ranked a lot higher, but the first couple seasons that we played in MW3, we weren't running into, you know, many hackers like
No.
in our like level. So, I think the people that are going to hack, they're always going to hack and they're always going to be up at the top regardless.
Right.
You just can't let them take over that. And also, they can't take over like the realm between like a bronze and like diamond, you know,
Right.
which
Because that's
we were
where like
feeling that.
everybody is.
Yeah, like we were feeling that in MW2. Like we would be in diamond or like low to high diamond and crim, and like we're feeling hackers all the time. Like makes no sense.
Yeah, yeah, which is ridiculous. Um, because again, the likelihood of us being up into the high or into iridescent and top 250, I mean, it is like very, very slim, you
Mhm.
know. But that doesn't mean that those people there are, they should have to deal with that
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, so I think the anti cheat was a lot better this year. Overall in ranked, it sure felt like it, at least
Yeah.
from our POV. Um, which is a huge plus because it just makes the experience better. But yeah, ranked was like kind of up and down. I think for us, granted, you said like you had like a lot of big life moves going on, so that was part of just why not being able to play as much.
Mhm.
But I think like a big part of it too, like we had talked about before, was just the maps. It was just more of playing on these maps and playing control, which we're happy to get control back. But it's like playing control on these maps,
Mhm.
wasn't really ideal, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like on some of them, they just ran horribly.
Yeah. And
Invasion control, bro.
I know.
Jeez. What
Yeah.
is that what it was? Is that what I'm thinking?
Skid row control.
Yeah, well,
Invasion.
which one was it? I'm trying to with the just junkyard in the back.
Yeah, that's Skid Row.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
Skid
Skid Row.
Row Control, when we started, Jesus Christ, to think that we were playing Skid Row
Yeah,
Control is an abomination. I
yeah,
mean, that shit was
yeah.
sucked.
No, I'm being honest. I'd much rather play Fortress Control in MW2, and that sucked.
Alpagra. Yeah,
But yeah,
seriously.
like that sucked.
Yeah,
But
that shit was terrible.
at least I don't know when you broke out of that, like it, you could try to do something. But yeah, in this, it was just the the maps. Like that's like the big theme of this game. Like the overall review. Like these maps took a toll on us. Like a lot more than I think you and I actually expected, because
Yeah.
we've played the same like 8 maps from Cold War, like couple maps from like Vanguard over and
Mhm.
over and over. And yeah, I got to the point where all right, like we got annoyed or whatever, but they're still decent maps, you know? Where in
Right.
this game, again, we just played these maps over and over back in like over a decade ago, you know?
Mhm.
And now we're doing it all over again on a game that these maps weren't even designed for. So it really like burnt us like bad.
Yeah, it really did. Like when we yeah, again, when we started this journey of playing this game, I didn't think it was gonna be that bad. And honestly, I didn't even think that this would end up being a con of mine.
Yeah, me
Um,
neither, to be honest.
but I mean, when putting in my list of cons, I mean, man, that's the first thing. Remastered maps went stale. Like
Mhm,
it really, really drained. Uh, and it hurt the experience a lot. Um, I mean, going over that, like, continuing with things I didn't like. It sounds like I hate this game and I'm gonna give a bad score, but I won't. But again, the maps was like a huge problem. I put in there as well for like the anti-cheat lagging at the end of ranked. That's kind of a wash because it didn't really apply for us since one we didn't play
mhm,
for the last 2 seasons, and overall, like we just said, didn't really have too much of an issue with it overall. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, the campaign, I don't even wanna get started on that, horrendous. The zombies was, whatever. Um, and I put in there not capitalizing on the MW3 name. It kinda just all revolves around the maps, man. Like, I
mhm,
just was hoping that we would get a resistance,
mhm,
They would throw a little like, maybe 1 or 2 of those every couple of seasons. Um, I think that just would've freshened up the game along with the new maps.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, we never got that. And then, of course, like, the lack of, leveling things, like, just not no rewards. Didn't get, great rewards for ranked, and then same thing with going through all the levels that we did.
mhm.
All 1,250 of
Yeah.
them. Got jack shit for it.
Yeah, and, the lesson learned here is that, again, this game had so much potential, and they did fix a lot of things, but nostalgia can only take any game so far.
Yes,
Nostalgia is not the answer for games. And
dude,
it
100%.
nostalgia should be sprinkled in, you know, throughout the game if you really
Right.
wanna bring back certain things that, people remember, but
Yeah.
I truly think the Modern Warfare series was completely tarnished. Like, the name of Modern Warfare has been tarnished the past, like, 2 years because of these 2 games, where only the OGs remember those old games and how great they were, and I think a lot of people are gonna hear MW2 and MW3, and they're gonna think of this, like, immediately. And that like, that's just a shame, like, that sucks that Afghan and Terminal and, like, all these great maps are looked at as these are the worst maps in, like, Call of Duty.
Well said, Justin.
Yeah,
Well fucking said.
but we're not gonna end it on just all the cons, right? There are pros to this game, and I think
There's a
there
lot.
were yeah, I think there are a lot of highs on this game, where the support on this game was really good from Sledgehammer. I think Sledgehammer really shut up Infinity Ward and was like, okay, you know what? We can't do what these guys did
Mhm.
over there. Like, we need to actually support the game, um, and put out a lot of content. And they did do that. They continued to make updates on the game. They put out a bunch of content, especially for multiplayer, every season. You go back to look at MW2, like, we didn't get shit.
Yeah.
We got nothing for multiplayer. It was heavily Warzone related, where I think in this game it was pretty balanced for the most part,
Mhm.
and then maybe even slightly favoring multiplayer because there was a lot in multiplayer every single season. Um,
Yeah.
and they even they added a bunch of collabs. That was like one of my critiques from last year, where they started putting out these like banger like bundles at the end of the year with all these cool collabs. They should be doing that like in the beginning of the game,
Mhm.
and they did do that. I didn't buy anything, but I was definitely way more tempted to buy skins this year than I was last year. You know,
Yeah.
like
Same.
off the top, like you got freaking the WWE, you got Gundam, you got uh the Michael Myers and Clownface, like you got the Snoop was in there, Nicki Minaj was in there. There's so many like different collabs.
I was just deep in thought. I was
Yeah.
trying to think of all the ones that they had. There's been so many,
hmm
you know, and they've all been, like, iconic in the sense that they've been with huge people. I mean, what was there was a rapper that they did too. I'm trying to think who was in the game. I can't remember now who it was supposed to
Oh,
be.
it was 21,
Yeah, 21
21 Savage.
Savage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like, they went wasn't Kevin Durant in this game too?
Yeah.
Didn't they
Yeah.
put
Kevin
yeah.
Durant, Devin Booker. Yeah, like they had.
Yeah, I mean, they went crazy with it.
Mhm,
They did a really, really good job on that front. You know, again, which Call of Duty and video games at the end of the day, that's what they are, providing good content for people. You know, if you have to pay for it, you have to pay for it. But I want it to be worthwhile or something that's, you know, I don't know. Well, yeah, it sounds worthwhile. It sounds
mhm,
worth my $20. It does suck that this shit is not gonna be around for Black Ops 6, though.
mhm,
Like, has nothing to do with the game, but
mhm,
it does suck that you could have spent
mhm,
hundreds of dollars on this game, and it is not carrying over to Black Ops 6. Like,
mhm.
that does blow.
See,
Um,
yeah, I do agree with that, but then that also, like, it goes against the, when you buy a new game, you want a new game, you know? Like,
uh,
MW2 to
you're right.
MW3 was the only year ever in Call of Duty where your skins transferred over.
Right,
Uh, yeah, you get to keep all your skins, but we got, like, 2.5 version
right.
of, the last COD, and,
No, you're right, you're right. I should think about that differently because again, you know, you're totally right, and it's not like that. I don't believe it is like with any other game, like Overwatch to Overwatch 2.
Mhm,
I don't know if anything carried over, but in the sense of it's a new game and you should understand that going into it, that
mhm,
you're gonna have to buy new stuff for a new game, you know, yeah, I do agree with that. But yeah, it doesn't take it's nothing to do with Infinity Ward or with sorry, with them, making the game and, like, adding any of these, bundles in there. It's like they just added what they added,
mhm.
and they provided good content, and you can just leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the support this year from Sledgehammer was great. They did a fantastic job of adding things that were worthwhile. That I'm sure people bought them because I've seen like a
Yeah,
lot of these skins around, and they they just did a good job compared to what we had the year before. Like I
yeah,
appreciate the support, and I mean Treyarch's going to do the same thing. If not, they're going to do even more. So Infinity Ward, please learn and you know take this from two people that play Call of Duty all the time, like support the fan base more.
yeah, and going off of that point as well, like, with the zombies mode, I mean, Sledgehammer did try with Treyarch to go and make something. Like I said, you know, I wasn't offended by it at all, which is a good thing. It's like they did try their best within, you know, the time restrictions and overall limitations of what they had to be able to make something that was decent. And to think that there are people who really liked it and not many people come, raising their pitchforks about it is I think that's a win. I could see this, you know, improving over time and making it better. overall, like, in this game, I didn't think it was great, um, but I thought it was good, you know?
Mhm.
So, things like that, they could definitely learn from, and then the other thing too was with the maps, like we had said in the seasons and the content, I mean, man, they've got great map makers over there, um, they just need to make more of those and
Yeah.
not go it's like, use these people who are really good map designers, and make good quality COD maps, and don't go down the route of just trying to remaster maps because it's not what a lot of us want.
Yeah, like, stick to what, you guys have been doing. The 3-lane maps. Stick to 3-lane maps. Like, those don't get boring. They
Yeah.
really don't get that boring. 3-lane maps, and every game just 12 to 15 brand new maps,
Mhm.
And then you wanna remaster, sprinkle them in. They're, like, during the seasons if you're gonna keep that, model, right?
Right.
Uh, so when we spend money on a new game, we want a new game. We don't want a
Right.
completely remastered game.
Yeah. No, that I mean, again, it's not at all what we want,
Mhm,
especially if I'm gonna be paying that $70 price tag. I wanna be getting all new stuff,
mhm,
and I think that's why it was tough playing this after a while because it just didn't have that new feel.
mhm.
It wore away really, really quickly.
Yeah, and, with that being said, I think, we did a pretty good job going through everything. Now we can rate this game on a scale of
Out of
1 to
10.
10, right? Alright, Mike, I'll let you go first because I went first for MW2. What do you give this game out of 10?
I think you'll be surprised based off the shit that I've said.
I think you'll be surprised with mine too.
I give it an 8-1.
Okay. Reasoning?
Yeah. Okay, I again, talk some shit about it, but
Mhm,
I think the overall game itself was great. I thought the movement itself was really good. It was fun to play in that aspect. The maps were obviously the biggest drawback. I do think part of that though was, on us, the way we played this game.
mhm,
We got really burnt because of time restrictions on our end of stuff that we had, just life shit going on.
mhm,
And I think that kind of warped my
mhm,
view of the game in a negative way. So, like you said before earlier, I have to take myself out of that viewpoint. Um, but yeah, I think there's a lot more pros to this game than cons. They moved in a really good direction with this game. Um, and they took some risks with the zombies, and I thought that was great. And then they kept some things that just were not broken, like the rank system. And I can't really complain about the rank. They just made steady improvements with this game from the last one.
mhm,
Um, of course, like I said, the maps was just the main thing. That's on us, kind of our personal way of feeling about it. I think it would have been a lot better with fresher maps. If it had fresh maps, I probably would have given it like an 8.6 or an 8.5, somewhere around there. The campaign, you know if I was really factoring that in, I'd give this game like a 6.5 or something. You know what I mean?
mhm,
I'd say it's terrible. The campaign is horrendous. They need to fire that team,
mhm,
whoever they are that made that campaign. You need to find some new people. Um, but removing campaign aside, I thought it was overall it was actually like a good step in the direction for the game.
mhm. Yeah,
So there you go. That's my score.
yeah. That's
What do you give this game, Justin? What's your score of MW3?
so you're really close to mine. I give this an 8 flat, compared
Look
to
at us, bro.
M MW2, I gave it a 7.9, and I was pretty like, people are surprised about that. But again, uh, I had to rate this game slightly higher than MW2 because this game functionally is better than MW2. Like, and the only reason why I could have ranked this or rated this way lower, like probably like a 7.2 or a 7.3 if I played way more of the zombies, way more of like if I rated the campaign as heavily as I did,
Mhm.
on this, but you know how we've rated every single COD so far, it's heavily weighted on the multiplayer side. We do take into account the other third mode and like the campaign, but it doesn't uh hold it so heavily, you know. But
Right.
yeah, like I give it point 0.1 better than MW2 because it was better than MW2. Um, it was what MW2 should have been. The
Mhm.
potential was there, and they did capitalize on it, but then they completely failed with the maps.
Yeah.
And it, it all leads to the maps because we got burnt out. But like you said, like that was on us to a point because we just had stuff going on. Like it was a big like life change for me this year,
Yeah, absolutely.
and like we just were time restricted and had to
Mhm.
put so much time in like grinding out in like a span a couple of weeks, if that, you know, and it tarnished the game even more for us. But that doesn't take the fact that we were playing on the same maps over and over again.
Right.
And even us playing ranked, right? Like the beginning of the season is like we had so much fun. I remember us like hopping on at night, like grinding for hours, like with our friends.
Yeah.
And we're having a ton of fun. And that just slowly tapered off, obviously, because I got busy, but like we just stopped playing, because it was the same stuff over and over again. Like
Right.
we didn't even get we started playing Rio and what's that map? The other one they added. Starship. Or yeah, Starship?
No, not Starship. I know what you're talking about. It's the one with the, DJ set, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? The one that's like it's not Skyline. That's from, I think, the beta.
Yeah. We're
What
on
was
to
the
the
name of that
beta.
map?
I can't remember. It's something ship, right?
Dude,
Starship?
I don't think so. Do I need to look this up right now?
Yeah. Yeah, we can't
I'll
even remember.
Yeah, I
but
know, I legit.
but yeah, I like yeah, we played into that season and then we kind of just, stopped. And yeah, like even our friends stopped too,
6
They
star.
6 star. Something star.
Yeah, right.
Starship.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah. But we we just got burnt, you know,
Yeah.
and it took like a huge toll on us. But even all the negative stuff that we said about this game is better than MW2. Just based on pure movement, the things they added into the game, what they updated, Sledgehammer, you know, putting out updates, like giving us so much content, all this
Right.
stuff. And if this game came out last year, I think a lot of people would rate this game a lot higher.
Yeah. Do you remember what I gave MW2?
It was a 7
I wanna
something. It
say it
was
was like a
close.
7.8 or
Uh,
something like that, if
so
I had to remember.
it was something like that. It was close to
Yeah,
what I had, yeah. Like, we've been,
yeah,
like, relatively close. Yeah.
yeah, and I will say too, we don't ever talk about our ratings. So
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, we don't.
this ain't no
Yeah.
this no BS, be like, "Okay, Justin, you're gonna go say 8, and I'm gonna say
Yeah.
8-1,"
Yeah.
you know? I mean, again, we just usually think about the game the same way. I mean, we
Mhm.
pretty much like, I would imagine that we're within an hour or 2 overall probably for the amount of time that we put in on this game. Like, that's the
Yeah.
differential, it's it. We've put in the same amount of time, so we've experienced a lot of it together.
Mhm.
Um, and plus too, you and I think on video games pretty much we're pretty like-minded, on
Mhm.
the things we like and dislike. Um, but yeah, again, this game overall, like me closing the book on it for myself, this game made improvements in the right areas. Um, and again, it would have been it would have been looked at a lot differently, like you said perfectly before, if it came out last year. If this was called MW2, I think people would look at this game a lot differently and would have expected this. But from MW3 with MW2 maps, with
Mhm.
no MW3 maps, and I think a lot of us just kind of underestimating the wear of playing those maps. I think that's something that they and every other COD developer needs to take with them going forward, which is to never do this again
Mhm.
because it's very taxing. It's very
Mhm.
tiring. This appeals to the 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. who never played the original one, they probably think it's great. But
Mhm.
for us, which I don't know what percentage we are of the player base, but for us, it definitely took a toll.
Yeah, and, closing off for my remarks is MW3 is better than MW2, and
Hell yeah.
if this game came out last year with the MW2 set of, like, not these set of maps, not the remastered maps, like Greenberg Hotel and those maps and, like, Mercado, I think we would look at this game a lot differently, uh, and nostalgia will only take you so far in any video game. That lesson needs to be learned, and you need to continue to support your game and pump out good content and updates like Sledgehammer did, because that even got us through like all these maps, like through this entire year. The fact
Yeah.
that they actually tried.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, that's the overall review. Like, I want to reiterate, these are our fucking
Symbolic.
opinions. These are our opinions. I already know people are like, an eight. This is a
After all
two.
the shit you said.
Yeah. Uh, People are probably gonna rate this like a two or like if that. They're like, oh, this game. No, they're not gonna rate it. They're gonna say this game's dog shit. Um,
That's all
where
they're gonna say.
we don't want to hear that. We actually want to hear, we want to have like conversations about this, because there has to be people out there that completely disagree with the remastered maps. I'm sure some people love it, like that are
Yeah.
probably our age, or if not older, and they're like, they'd much rather have maps that they know they really like and that work than take the risk of getting brand new maps.
Yeah, and I think they'd be, maybe either agree or think we're insane for our rating of me an 8.1 and you an 8 out of 10
Hmm.
on this game, especially after the stuff that we said, the good and bad.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm curious what other people think about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
I who knows? If there's anybody who says this is like in the nines, oh, I need to hear that. Like that.
Yeah.
How many? Because I just posted it on our TikTok today and Instagram from our last episode about I'm like how many CODs, like which number of COD is this for you?
Hmm.
MW3. Because for us, I mean, man, we've been doing this a long fucking time.
Yeah.
There are very few of those CODs that are up in the nines. There is no 10. The 10 does
Yeah.
not exist. You know, like that's
Then yeah,
that's what we're chasing. But
the nines are
to
special.
exactly. The nines are the ones that, like, if they got remastered tomorrow, I'd be happy about it,
Hmm.
I'd be like, "Okay, I'll go play it every once in a while,"
Hmm.
But, yeah, putting this game in an 8, I think it's pretty fair. Again, this is our opinion, this come from 2 people, we don't get paid by them.
Hmm.
We play this game I mean, we did play this game, at the point of this now, have not played for a bit, a week or 2.
Hmm.
But we put in I don't even know how many days into this game. A lot of days in this game. Hit max level on this game. Played every single season. Played every single map. Yeah, we put in our time. So I don't want to hear it from some guy or girl who's level 120 and is
Yeah.
shitting on the game. I'm like, bro, you didn't put in the time on this game.
Hmm. Yeah.
IGN reviewer.
Yeah. 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 This is the COD casual scale. All right. This
Yeah,
is our
exactly.
scale.
Yeah.
And you know, you and I are definitely the glasses half full type of people than
Hmm.
half empty. So we do look at the good things, where I think, at least in the COD community, most people are like, this game's dog shit. This game's like a 1 or 2.
Right.
5 is completely average for us on
Hmm.
our scale. And average, in my eyes, is not good. Like, you don't want to be average. Uh,
No.
like, average is World War II for me. Like,
Yeah.
that game is not, like, I don't like the game. Um, but, you know, that the game could be a lot better, in my opinion.
And again, does it warrant the $70 price tag? And
Hmm.
does it say warrant all those hours that you're going to put into it?
Hmm.
You know, It's like that's the thing. Some games are really, really good, and they, you can put in all that time, and it's fun every, minute or hour of it. And those are the great games that are worth it. Like I'll tell you, bro, I platinumed Astrobot today.
Mhm.
50th platinum, done.
Yeah.
That game is worth the $60. Like,
Mhm.
that game is so good. There was never a moment in that game where it was like, "This sucks," or "This is dumb." You know
Mhm.
what I mean? That to me, that's like a game that's in the high 8 or it's in high 8s, it's in the 9s.
Mhm.
That game is like it's worth the money, 100%. It's totally worth it. There's a lot of CODs that have come around throughout the years where it's like, "Is it worth that money? I don't know."
Yeah.
World War
No.
II, one of those. MW 2019 for me, was
Yeah.
like, I not a fan of that game. This one, I would say this was a really good one,
Mhm.
especially too if you're not like us where you haven't played those,
Mhm.
and the maps don't bother you. I think it's a great game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, people that haven't played these maps, like, probably enjoyed it a lot more than us. Uh, and then again, it was just a more refined MW2. So,
Right.
well, closing off with that 8.1, 8 out of 10 for the COD Casuals ranking. Um, and
And that's it, bro.
dude, that's it for MW3, man. That is
Man,
it
fuck
for
this game.
we're we're done with it.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, so once we go to episode what, 193,
Yep.
we will have played Black Ops 6. It will have been out, and we will be giving our first impressions of that. We are going to be recording early for you guys on that one, so that way it's not on the week schedule. So we're going to be grinding a bit to be able to record.
Mhm.
So you're welcome. So it's going to be a great time. I can't wait. I had a lot of fun with MW3. It's been a blast talking about it with you in the highs and lows of it, but I'm glad that we're done with it.
Yeah, we're
No more
on to
small map mosh pit, Justin.
I know. We're on to Black Ops 6. That's what we're doing. We're on to Black Ops 6. New era of Call of
Hoping
Duty.
potential once we come back to, I don't know, whenever, October-ish, November-ish, whenever the next Call of Duty comes out after that. Hopefully, we'll be sitting right back here, and we'll be putting that game up in the 9s. Let's hope.
Yeah. In 2025.
Yeah, which is
To in
crazy.
2025.
Yeah, we're gonna look back on this and be like, "Dude, this was a pretty solid review," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're more efficient this time with it
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
So
So,
the next Black Ops 6 one would be like an hour long. We'll just bang everything
bang everything out. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there are a couple people that enjoy like these super long in depth ones and ranting.
Yeah. Nah. So again, if you did make it all the way to the end, we appreciate you.
Hmm.
And everybody else too that's listening and gotten to the end, be sure to let us know what you think down in the comments on YouTube,
Hmm.
or if you want to take over to Twitter at COD Casuals and let us know there. I just posted today saying, what people would give the rating of the game.
Hmm.
So please do let us know there. And again, please go follow us on those platforms as well as going to the Instagram and TikTok where we post daily. And like I said before, go to the YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and then go to Twitter at COD Casuals since we're there all the time, and as well as anchor.fm/COD Casuals because we're on all streaming platforms. 5-star rating as always, especially for this special episode, and
Hmm.
answer the question below. And I think that's it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, thank you to everyone that has listened for this entire
We appreciate you.
COD era,
Yep.
man. Like,
Yep.
and now we're on to Black Ops 6. That's what
I
we're
know.
doing.
Thank
New
God.
era.
So exactly. I'm looking forward to it. So again, everybody, this has been episode number 192 of the COD Casuals podcast. We're your host, Mike,
I'm Justin.
and we will see you guys next week in Black Ops 6. Take it easy, everybody.
See ya.